Fifth graders, this is your math lesson for Everyday Math Lesson 511. We're going to be explaining the equivalent fraction rule today. And first of all, before we get started, I want you to think about these particular problems. You're going to need your math journal, and this is page 184. 184. And before we get started, I want you to think about some of these problems. And all you're going to need to do is in your book use the greater than, less than, or equals to sign to answer these questions. So go ahead and give those a try. Think about what might be true here, or what might be greater. Is 5 times 1/2 greater than 5, less than 5, or equal to 5? Go ahead, stop the video, and then come back when you're ready. So if we take a look at this first one, 5 times 1/2, we're going to have to say that 5 is greater, because if we reverse this and think about what is 1/2 of 5, that's really 2 1/2, which is smaller than 5. If we go to the next one, though, it's a little bit different. 5 times 2 1/3 is going to be greater than 5 because 2 times 5 is already 10. So it's going to end up being greater than. The next one, 5 times 5/4. We're going to see that this guy is also greater because 5/4 is really greater than 1. So it would be like saying 5 times 1, that would be equal to 5, but this is actually greater than 1. So it's going to end up being greater. On letter D, we have 5 times 86/87. And even though 86/87 is really close to 1, it's not. So when we see this guy is going to end up being less than 5. And letter E, we have 5 times 1, and that should make you think, oh, that's 5, so that's equal to 5. So let's check our work and make sure that that's the same thing. And so far, so good. So the next thing that you need to think about is that multiplying any number times 1 does not actually change the value of that number. This has actually got a name for it. It's called the multiplicative identity property. It's hard to say. And it just means that any number times 1 does not change the value of that number, no matter what. So if we look at this lovely little name chart, name collection box, we haven't talked about those a whole lot this year, but if I was looking for fractions that also are equal to 1, I could say, well, 2/2 is 1, 3/3 is 1, 4/4 is 1, 5/5 is 1, and so on and so forth. So any number times these guys right here would essentially be taking it times 1. So let's take a look at the next part of your math journal. We're going to write 3 fractions that are equal or equivalent to 1. So if you want to use some of those same ones that I just had on there, you could do that very easily. And I know some of you will get creative with what you write. So I'm going to make it easy on myself, and I'm going to go 3/3. I'm going to go 6/6. And go a little bit crazy and go 9/9. All of those are equal to 1. Then what I'm going to do is use these fractions to write 3 fractions that are equivalent to 4/5. Well, I already have that one, so 12/15 is there. I'm going to do my 6/6, so 4 times 6 is 24. And then the denominator, 5 times 6 is 30. I'm going to get some big ones here. Then 9 times the 4, 36. And 5 times 9 is going to be 45. And if I wanted to go 10, I could. 10 tenths, that would end up being 40 over 50, 40 50ths. It's hard to say too. So what we have to do now is explain how we know that the fractions that we found in part B down here are equivalent to 4/5. Well, it's pretty easy to think about it if you think that what we just talked about, that those two numbers are going to equal 1. So I know, let me change that color. Sorry, kids. There we go. I know that they are equivalent because the fraction I multiplied them by is equal to 1. Any number times 1 has the same value. Okay? So take a moment and write that in your journal. If you need to pause, you can do that. All right, going on. For part 3, it says to look at the fractions in the table below. They can all be rewritten as equivalent fractions with a denominator of 12. So our target number is 12 here. What would you multiply each fraction by to make 12ths? And then write the fraction name for that one that you would use in each case. So if we look at the first one, the example, we have 2/3. What would we take 3 times to get a denominator of 12? Well, it would be 4. So our new fraction name for 1 that we would write is 4 in the denominator and 4 in the numerator. And then we just straight multiply. 2 times 4, 8. 3 times 4, 12. This guy, we have 3/4, so we would end up multiplying. What times 4 gets us 12? It would be 3. And so we'd have to do 3/3. So we're going to end up with 9/12 because we just multiplied straight across. Let's jump down here to 5/6. What times 6 gets us 12? It's 2. So we would be multiplying 2 over 2. And then that would end up being 5 times 2 is 10, 10/12. So I want you to go ahead and try number for the last one for 1/2. And then pick one fraction name for one that you used in problem 3. How do you know the fraction is equivalent to 12? Go ahead and pause. And then I want you to check your answer for that. And finally, check your answer. Just be something like what you have for this one. And that's it. We'll talk about math boxes when you get done.